Hello, I'm Kieren McCosker with QAFI at the University of Queensland. I'm here to talk about the Reducing Calf Loss from Exposure study, which we did at Avondale Station in the Northern Territory with Australian Agricultural Company. This project was about investigating the effectiveness of providing artificial shade or augmenting paddocks that had relatively few trees in them with additional shade structures, and investigating and quantifying the impact of building those structures in these paddocks to see how it reduced calf loss or successful pregnancy to weaning outcomes. On average, losses between confirmed pregnancy to weaning are about 12% across all females. That's a figure that we determined in the cash cow project, which was reported in about 2016. Now, the rates are higher in heifers, so they can increase to around 30%, and rates higher than that are not uncommon either. What we did find is that in some years cows using these current measurements or threshold values for those heat stress measurements. In some years cows do experience a lot of stress from heat, and so that probably warrants further investigation. And one of the things that we don't know is how appropriate some of the current thresholds are, which have mostly been developed in intensive industries like dairy and feedlot, how applicable they are when we take them out to the grazing situation. So what we did find is that if we take the measurements that we took under the shade shelter, using those indicators, application of putting shade shelters did take those thresholds way down. It did mitigate a lot of the heat. So it was whether or not the cows utilised that access to that shade. Over the 3 years that this work was done, we measured about a 5.5% difference in confirmed pregnancy to weaning loss. That in scientific terms wasn't statistically significant, and we would like to investigate that further and are working with industry to see how we can do that, because industry is telling us that that's an important finding and if it holds up, a significant production benefit. We would do further work to obtain increased confidence about the results we saw, and so ideally we would like to engage multiple properties doing similar things and seeing whether or not that intervention held up there. And the other question, of course, is there's an element of cost here. Even though we might see production benefits and there are possible and likely sort of welfare benefits, we also need to quantify the cost benefit of making these interventions. So in this study, we also used remote sensors, so GPS collars tracking their positions every 10 minutes. What we were able to do was use that information to rank animals within the paddock that had access to shade. Say the cow that used the shade heavily compared that cow to one that didn't use it so frequently. And what we did find is that there was association there, but again, that wasn't statistically significant, but for the number of animals we had it on, again, we would like to obtain increased confidence about seeing whether or not that association holds up as well.